sweet PC, collectible fighting game, marketed on commercial TV show, pop stars playing it at the same time as it was available in kiosks. Like, man, it's one of those too good to be true stories. It was true, it just wasn't good enough at the time.
At some point between 1989 and 1995, Satoshi Tajiri learned that his dream project wouldn't be able to go by its intended name due to the fact that it sounded too similar to Gashapon, which was a trademark held by Bandai. So in 1996, Japan was instead introduced to Pokémon. 2 years later, in 1998, Pocket Monsters, now shortened down to just Pokémon, released in America, and along with the snappier name, they also needed a slogan. Something that'd clearly state the ultimate goal of both the player character of the games, the anime protagonist as Ketchup, and of course the millions of children with no idea of what was about to hit them.
Little, reclusive, power-filled monsters. But why should they carry these monsters in their pocket?
Catch them if you can was actually seriously considered for a while, but that didn't quite work because the kids needed to know that this was not an option, it was imperative. They not only could catch them all, they gotta catch them all, gotta catch them all, gotta catch them all, gotta catch them all. And if you're a millennial like me, this next sentence might hurt, but for the next 30 years after that point, Pokémon was pretty much unavoidable. Cups, cars, books, jars, mugs, jugs, bugs, rugs, pants, pillows, puzzles, phone, armadillos, nuts, drones. At this point, they've pretty much done it all. And while the world was experiencing its first
Pokemania everywhere,
that of course also included which is how this little guy came to be. You know the Atari video game burial? You've probably heard it before, but in short, the story goes that during the video game crash of 1983, Atari was left with thousands of copies of the game E.T., the extraterrestrial, for the Atari 2600 that they were simply unable to sell. So what they ended up doing was take them out to some landfill in New Mexico and just burying them. At least that's the simplified story. It wasn't just E.T. in the landfill, but that's for another day. Now, Sweden is a much smaller country than America, but we had something of a similar story almost happen in 2015. For us, it was with the tabletop role-playing game, Gemini. TTRPG nerd shop Dragon Slayer made a Facebook post saying that they were sitting on seemingly hundreds of copies of Gemini and its expansions, and that these had been around for so long that it simply wasn't feasible for the store to keep them around any longer. If anyone wanted a copy or 100, reach out, cause on Monday it'd all be taken to be buried at the proverbial landfill. Luckily, our story had a happier ending because an association called Sverok ended up saving all of these copies and distributing them to youth groups and others that wanted a copy. Gemini, the game in question, wasn't famous for being terrible like E.T., and it was also never blamed for disrupting a whole industry, and it actually reviewed quite favorably, so I guess in a way this was nothing like the Atari video game burial, other than the fact that a few games were at some point going to be thrown away, but the game, Gemini, was produced, developed and distributed by a Swedish company called Cell Entertainment.
Gemini, the dark fantasy role-playing game, which was kind of Name of the Rose meets a twisted version of Lord of the Rings, if you will.
That's ᴄŽszáİlᴇʟ. Today he's the CEO and co-founder of Star Stable Entertainment, but back in the day he also co-founded Cell Entertainment together with Stefan Ljungqvist.
We also did Crash, where you assembled matchbox-style cars and played out battles Mad Max style on your tabletop.
And while these games saw some success, the new millennium was approaching quickly, and the boys at Cell Entertainment had begun looking at expanding to new storytelling mediums.
We had been talking quite a lot about what we could do in the video game space, and we approached Marcus, who's quite skilled in 3D at the time.
My name is Marcus Torell. I am a game designer, creative director, game director. I've been in the industry for a very long time. I'm making games for like 35 years.
We really want to make video games. Are you sure that you don't want to join us and make video games?
How can we do it? We have no clue how to make a computer game. We know a lot about making paper and pen games, of course, But computer games was something completely different. It was like, okay, where do we start even?
And Marcus jumped, and we jumped with him. So it's kind of a 3 guys jump at the same time. Let's see what happens.
And what these 3 guys jumped into was their new PC game development studio, 𝐄𝐿_FX. And I do want to mention here that we will be hearing more from Johan, Marcus, other team members as this video goes on, but I didn't get a chance to talk to Stefan Ljungqvist, the last of the co-founders who declined to be interviewed for this project. But so the focus shifted from the physical game creation of Cell Entertainment into digital game creation with 𝐄𝐿_FX. Now if you go to look up 𝐄𝐿_FX today, and yes, I will be pronouncing it 𝐄𝐿_FX, not idle_FX. It's a Swedish company, and you know, I'm Swedish.
𝐄𝐿_FX.
There's an old website, a news article, and a handful of pages that lists their catalog of released and unreleased games. And according to the list you can find on mobygames.com, the first release from 𝐄𝐿_FX was Gust. And apart from one notable exception that we'll get to, this is probably the most recognizable title that they ever released. One of my friends used to have it, and I even remember seeing it being discussed on some morning TV show when I was a kid. It's a sort of kid-friendly horror-adjacent game. You're this cute little guy walking around some desolate, abandoned circus or something, I think. Honestly, I'm not sure, but I know that the game reviewed pretty favorably at the time. For reasons unknown to me, mobygames.com does not mention Grumpa, an 𝐄𝐿_FX game that the internet reliably tells me came out the same year as Gust. In Grumpa, you play as a buff, 6-limbed ladybug running around a tropical setting with your sword and your trusty mosquito companion. There are cutscenes, pirates, monkeys, alligators. This 2001 news article that I mentioned before has Stefan Ljungqvist describing Grumpa as a, quote, Disney version of an Errol Flynn matinee combined with a little Zelda. So that was 2002, and in 2003 𝐄𝐿_FX released not 1 but 3 separate games, starting with Nosferatu, The Wrath of Malachi. Surprisingly, this one's currently available on Steam for some reason, so I picked it up and I played through it, and honestly, this fucking slaps. So I'm not gonna say too much about it, and instead I'm thinking that I'll probably stream it at some point, either on Twitch or my second channel, Extra Jeff. So follow me there, I guess, if you want more info on this beautiful piece of 2003 Euro jank. The second 2003 release from 𝐄𝐿_FX was Loophole. This is a game set in a world that has a lot of additional lore and extended media. It's got books, a movie, comic books, and various other tie-in stuff. And there's actually still a small group of very dedicated fans that I stumbled upon while putting this video together, who are committed to archiving as much as possible about this mostly forgotten world. Very cool, check them out and help them out if you can. Thank you for your effort. After Loophole, and remember we're still in 2003 here, this is all still from the same year, came a game that is the one that you're most likely to have heard about before from 𝐄𝐿_FX, as it has garnered something of a cult status in certain corners of the so bad that it's good fandom. Drake of the
99 Dragons. Blurry as fuck. Ate the barf. Vomited. Barf controls like ass. Crusty ass. 4 asshole. Anal grease. Anal feces. Pissing shit. Bullshit. Bullshit. Bullshit. Suck shit. Taking a shit. Shit. Shit. Shit. Shit. Shit. Shit. Shit. Shit. It's gonna get fucked. Fuck. Fucked up. Fuck. Fuck. Fucking idiot. Fucking. What the fuck? What the fuck? Fuck shit. Piss. It's annoying. It's boring.
So Drake of the 99 Dragons, which 𝐄𝐿_FX released alongside a tie-in comic book, is a cel-shaded corridor shooter about this white assassin in Hong Kong who sets out to avenge his clan and reclaim some stolen artifacts. Very excitable pre-release hype described it as a stylistic mashup of John Woo films and the Batman animated TV show. Unfortunately, that same publication later rated the game a 1.6 out of 10, quote, an out-and-out failure in every single discernible category. And for reasons I can't quite fathom, 15 years later a slightly improved version was released on Steam, I guess for some type of nostalgia reasons. And to be fair, even the 1.6 reviewer sort of seemed a little nostalgic about it. And then finally in 2004, FBI Hostage Rescue. And I'm not even gonna say that much about this one. I think what you see is what you get here. It's a generic 2004 Rainbow Six SWAT inspired hostage rescue first-person shooter, and it wasn't received very well. Now it should be mentioned that in 2003 𝐿 merged with another company, Hidden Dinosaur, which does explain a little bit the whole 3 games in 1 year thing, but even so, it's still a very impressive output. So there we have it. 𝐿 existed for something like 5 years and released, depending on how you count, 6 games before they eventually shut down. Except that isn't quite the full story, is it? You're watching this and you're thinking, yeah, 3 games in 1 year, that's quite a lot, yeah? That's what you're 3 games. Oh, my sweet child. The things you have yet to see.
Stay tuned. Don't go anywhere. Jeffiot will be right back.
Jaha, nej, du måste jag nog sova fortfarande. Nej, man måste ha prickar, va? Det var så små bollar som... Oj, en rejäl näsa har han och så... Nej, det är en pistol! Ah!
And now, back to Jeremy. Jeffiot. One second. Jeffiot? That doesn't sound right. I've got the script in front of me. I know what it's supposed to say. Jeffiot just doesn't sound right.
In 2001, undoubtedly inspired by the ongoing Pokemania, 𝐿 released Imp.
Steven, what are imps? Right. What are imps?
Yeah, what is imp? I think that is an excellent question. To me, imp is...
So it was...
imp...
In the shop, it was like a booster...
I'm
PC Gamer Sweden, February 2002 issue.
Little mean imps fighting on your PC.
Whoa!
The whole thing is that you buy a disc and then take it home to your buddy. And then the game begins, which involves beating each other's imps in a classic fighting style.
Wow.
The game almost seems to be a kind of variant of Pokémon, although a little more violent. And in beautiful 3D. Especially the pairs from the fire element are impressive. The game is admittedly quite simple.
Whoa.
It should cost around $5 per disc, and that is quite affordable.
Imp is a 1v1 fighting game, sort of like Tekken or Street Fighter. Upon launching the game, the player gets to pick between training, where you fight against an AI, single match, where 2 players squeeze together on the same keyboard to fight each other, or league, in which you get to set up the amount of players, amount of imps per player, and then the amount of lives, rounds, and matches to be held with said imps to finally crown the ultimate imp, maybe? I don't know. There's a total of 10 different arenas to pick between, not counting the practice ring, and once the game gets going, well, this is it. What you see is what you get here. Every character has 4 moves, those being attack, block, special attack 1, and special attack 2. No special combos, no ultimate abilities, nothing like that. There's a health pickup, a speed pickup, and a gear pickup, which makes you stronger for a little bit, I'm pretty sure. Apart from your opponent just beating you to 0 health, you can also lose by falling off the edge of the arena. And some of the arenas have these environmental hazards, like this laser thing, this hole in the floor, logs just swinging everywhere, and spooky little hands coming out of the floor. It's a graveyard.
Yeah, Imp was a side project, kind of, an idea from Stefan Ljungqvist from the beginning, as I remember. I mean, it was like moving back and forward, jump, and the 2 or 3 different attacks. It was very simple graphics. Even if it was 3D, it was really, really simple.
At the core, it was really quite a horribly boring fighter.
And that's it, really. That's all there is to it. Nothing remarkable or noteworthy about it. Just a normal game. I didn't bury the lead. The intro about Pokémon and gotta catch 'em all, that was completely unrelated. So, yeah, thanks for watching, I guess. Honestly, you can go now. I'm not kidding. There's nothing else to mention about this project. It's just a normal game from the... Remember when games used to come on discs? Back when I was in elementary school, we used to have these big, clunky Windows 98 PCs, and we did this trick where we'd put the game disc into one PC and we'd launch the game. We'd then eject the tray again, but without closing it, put the disc in a second PC, and hey presto, now 2 people could play the same game. Ah, the 2000s. What a time. I used to play the old Ubisoft game 13 for the PlayStation 2, like a lot when I was a kid, but I remember once I was at my friend's house and I saw that his dad had it on PC, and I remember being baffled by the fact that it came on 4 separate discs. Like, that was crazy to me. Like, why would you need that many? Did you know that the game EverQuest 2, in its original 2004 release, shipped on 10 separate discs? That's 10 discs for one game, which has to be some sort of record for the most... So, back when I showed you how the game works, I may or may not have skipped over a couple of steps, but let's revisit that process now of starting the game and selecting your character. You insert the disc, start the game, get to the menu, pick the arena, and... I don't seem to be able to switch character and...
City versus city.
These are both the same guy. The guy from the cover of the disc. Start over. Insert a disc, start the game, get to the menu, eject the disc, insert another disc with another character on it, hit space, and...
City versus boot goal.
So basically, to spell out what's going on here, each of these discs contain one character, the one featured on the cover. You convince your mom to get you Slink and Arctis, and your friend has convinced his mom to get him Buttgod and Firnymph, because he's a little freak. Then you sit down physically in the same room, you run your disc, you then switch it out for your buddy's disc, and you fight it out until one of you wins, your imps versus his imps. Unfortunately, as it turns out, Buttgod is incredibly OP and his Firnymph absolutely melts your Arctis, as if by design. So you now feel that you have no other choice than to upgrade your roster, aka buy more imps. Perhaps you'll even collect them all. I mean, considering the small studio and limited budget and all that, how many imps could they feasibly even... 50! There's 50 separate different imps on... Separate... 50 imps! There's Hammarken, Primasken, Daemat, Metakris, Logloben, Lava, Blob 2. Iriador, Barkonen, Frostmord, Vampyria, Yggdrasor, Argonatu. There's Hornkotten, Ivuren, Buttgoden, Firnymph, Mokgoradrot, and Mephisto. Rigat, Amma, Suckbullbog, Megammon, Buffgordian, Baphomet, Nosferatu. Then there's Tentaclos, Tricyclo, Basra, El Hydra, El Isiadora, Arctis. Gorgonia, Svingen, Rapacious, and then we have King Konga and Satyris. Sia, Metonen, Gulaken, Kretronen, Salamandron, Glassard, Cosmoeus. Vulcanicus, Skeletuk, Mobius, Kentaurus, Malmorgsson, Borgsteg, Also there's Cannibal Rogue. From what little I've been able to dig up that PC Gamer blurb and so forth, it seems that one imp disc would have cost around 50 crowns, which is roughly around $5. Which, you know, is pretty cheap for a video game. But of course, you wouldn't want to play just against the character that you're already playing as. So you probably want to have at least 2 different imps to have any type of fun with this, which according to my calculations lands us at about $10 at this point, which still isn't that bad, but also every match is kinda the same now. Especially if one of the characters is just like objectively better than the other one. So you can see where this is going, and this is also sort of the baseline for the entire imp project as a whole. If you wanted to actually catch them all, that'd be 50 crowns times 50, which is 2,500 crowns, or roughly $265. But then we also have to adjust that for inflation, landing us on a cool 3,900 crowns, or about $415 US. Suffice to say, I don't think a lot of kids ever actually caught them all when it came to imps.
Yeah, no, not. It's like probably not our most sophisticated design work.
And it's now been something like 2 years since I set out on my personal quest to collect all 50 imps. And as you can probably guess, it's been a bit tricky. I mean, imp never really got very popular in the first place, and did I mention that there are 50 separate discs? So we have to also take into consideration here, like, how many of each character can there even have been in the first place?
The print run was probably, if I recall correctly, 3,000 of each. So a total of been a total of 150,000 discs. That might sound ridiculously high, but it was a high number.
Well, that's more than I thought, but still, I mean, there's been no Dragon Slayer / 𝐵𝚳𝚃 style story of game preservation with the imp discs at any point. I've had to hunt all of these down on my own in the wild, one by one. And naturally, whenever I do stumble upon one of these discs, it's usually one that I already have. A problem that, of course, became increasingly prevalent the bigger my collection grew. But perseverance conquers all, and an eBay listing here, a Facebook Marketplace post there, and a very lucky find of this amazing retail box with several discs that are still in their plastic covers later, and I can today happily say that I am probably one of the only owners of every single imp that was ever released. Except for these 3 that I printed the covers for and burnt onto these colorful discs until I get my hands on real ones. So if you for some reason happen to have a couple of imp discs in the attic, please check for 𝐿𝐿, Barkun, and Hornput, and then send me an email on this address. I will pay you, but it won't be much. And I mean, look at this. Look at these designs. I absolutely love these. On closer inspection, you can tell that they're obviously hand-painted, like physically on paper and then scanned. Like you can see the different brush sizes on the different imps. The colors are vibrant, and just the general designs are very diverse. And to state the obvious here, for 50 characters, you'd need 50 original designs, which isn't a small task to ask from an illustrator. And when looking through all of these, I'm sure that they were all made by one single person. And imagine how much time must have been spent on these. Like, how long would it take you to come up with the idea, sketch out the concept art, to get that concept art approved, and then make revisions, and then do the final design for just one of these imps? A week? A month?
Yeah, I think I did all 50 in a month or something. I think I did 2 a day, or 3 a day.
This is 𝐄𝐌𝐀𝐈𝐋, who you've seen in a few clips already and probably wondered who it is. Author of Norse Gods, the Undead and Väsen, which later got turned into a pretty cool tabletop RPG. Designer and illustrator of a whole bunch of things, including cover art for several Tolkien books. Former idolFX team member, and of course single-handedly responsible for every single imp illustration.
they had this idea to, a fighting game with monsters that you could collect. And I love drawing monsters. That's why I was there, basically, to draw monsters.
And I'm sorry to geek out, but while today 𝐄𝐻𝐸 is pretty damn renowned, he first worked with Cell Entertainment on Gemini, and that was when he was literally just out of high school. And then at the time of Imp, he was in college on the other side of Sweden, so he ended up doing all 50 Imp designs over a summer break.
One gang was sort of based on dinosaurs, one gang was based on like sea creatures, I think, and all the teams should include like one quick one big one girl. This was the early 2000s, so like one girl. And all the other guys, the other guys were just undefined.
But before we go any deeper into the monsters, because believe me, of course we're going to be talking more about the monsters, there's something that 𝐄𝐻𝐸 said there that I want to dwell on for a minute, because I think it explains a lot about where Imp came from and why idolFX adopted such a seemingly absurd, self-defeating business strategy.
Yeah, a fighting game with monsters that you could collect.
Because that does sound quite a lot like a certain other franchise that I've referenced quite a few times at this point, but while Pokémon is obviously deep in the DNA of Imp, if you dig a little bit deeper into it, instead of Game Boy games and kid cartoons, you find collectibles. Card games like Magic the Gathering and miniatures like Warhammer 40k.
Warhammer is a touching point for all this stuff. I'm a big Warhammer nerd. We were all Games Workshop freaks, or not all of us, not the programmers, but me and Stefan and Johan.
Like, Cell Entertainment even made their own metal miniatures in their own metal casting workshop with machines that they had to import from Italy.
We had to persuade the Italian suppliers of the metal casting machines that we knew perfectly well how to operate this quite heavy and somewhat dangerous machinery, and then they reluctantly agreed to sell us the machines that we then transported between a couple of offices in Stockholm, and man, they were very, very, very heavy.
These are guys that loved pen and paper role-playing games and miniatures and collectibles. So while it is true that they were undoubtedly rocked by the juggernaut that was Pokémon as much as everyone else was at the time, it probably wouldn't be fair to imply that Imp was nothing but a Pokémon ripoff. The way I take it, Pokémon was likely less of a direct inspiration and served more as proof that these niche, nerdy interests that they had actually could have more of a mainstream appeal.
That was like, how can we do collectible card games in computer games? How can we make a transition? How could we do something on the computer that is a collectible card game?
When I think back at Imp, I see like nuggets of complete brilliance in trying to find a way to disrupt a business that was not perhaps ready to be disrupted, and the idea did not quite like hit home, but we gave it a serious try.
And in retrospect, I think it's easy to look back at something like Imp today and say, of course this failed. Who would have ever thought otherwise? But that's not really fair, I think, because there's to me nothing inherently logical about Pogs becoming a big thing, or Beanie Babies, or Pokémon for that matter, a bug collecting game. That's just sort of the nature of these types of projects. And while there isn't much to read about Imp online today, I did find some blog posts about idolFX on a very reputable gaming website that actually came out during the making of this video, and I don't want anyone to go over there and say that they're wrong or leave mean comments or whatever, but the Imp write-up in particular is a pretty scathing review, and at its core there's seemingly this very cynical assumption that Imp was nothing but a cash grab. And I'm not saying that it wasn't. Like, we all know that profits are at the core of any modern gaming experience, but I don't think that that means that it also can't be a project by dedicated people who were passionate about their craft and had some pretty neat ideas. Take, for example, the original concept for how the discs would be presented.
We really wanted the discs to be special. One of the things that we looked at was different styles and sizes of discs. So there were CD cards that you would fit into a larger CD,
sort of playing card size, and then you could still pop it in a disc player, and it would work as a disc but all the information that was important was just in sort of the middle of the disc.
Obviously, that didn't quite pan out in the end, but I mean, it's a cool idea. I've seen novelty discs before, but I can't think of a better use case than collectible game characters like this. And I don't know, maybe I'm like an apologist for things that don't deserve it, but first of all, I think that could have caught on. Little novelty discs, collector. I think that's cool. But also, you know, when I read stuff like this...
A game designed to exploit children into purchasing multiple copies of a cheaply made game. You're essentially forcing kids to buy upwards of 5 to 6 copies of the same game before it reaches a state where it approaches a complete video game experience.
All I can think is that, like, man, if it's between this...
Grumba, min son, vakna! Det är min sista älskar!
From some indie developer that also makes their own metal miniatures and publishes in-house tie-in comics versus a new $120 Call of Duty game every 6 months, not even counting the microtransactions and season passes, then I'd take this every day of the week. Or this. Or this. Which, by the way, isn't to say that the author of this article prefers Call of Duty World at Warcraft 14. That'd be a bit of a straw man. I also don't really hate Call of Duty. I've played a lot of Call of Duty myself for some reason. It's just very emblematic of the state of things, right? What I'm getting at is more of a general take of the state of games, I guess. The 90s and early 2000s had such a different vibe to it, where AAA games were made by teams that would, you know, today be classified as an indie game, and indie games weren't really a thing in the same sense that they are today. And I do want to be clear that there's a lot of good games coming out today. Like, in fact, most of my favorite games have been released in the last 10 years or so. But I guess what I'm talking about is the spirit of the times or something, the culture around it all.
I think that the way that we approached making video games in the early days was, to a degree, absolutely, let's, you know, throw things on the wall and see what sticks.
It was crazy times. It's like Wild West for making computer games, I think.
And I promise I'll drop it after this, but there is one more thing that I want to address in that blog post. And look, I know that no one in the world but me cares about this 25-year-old game, but there's an excerpt here that I think very neatly puts a finger on the fundamental difference in how I and the author of this article view a project like Imp. And if nothing else, I think it'll at least help explain why I'm even talking about Imp in the first place.
Imagine for a minute you are a child, and you see a badass skeleton on the box of a game you see in your local game store. You buy it based entirely on that cover. After inserting the disc into your computer's disk drive, you install it, but find you only have 2% of the game, and can only do a mirror match against yourself.
Because, dude, that is literally my experience with Imp. That's exactly what happened to me, except it was 𝐄𝐌𝐀𝐈𝐋 and not a game store, and it was Arctis, not 𝐿𝐿𝐿𝐿. And here I am. This shit's been on my mind for 25 years at this point. And like, I know I'm an insane person, but still, I guess it's just baffling to me that you can learn about such a strange and novel concept such as Imp, and then have your main takeaway be that the gameplay experience wasn't great. And I don't know anything about the person that wrote this article. I don't mean to say that they are a certain way, but it sounds to me like a kind of cynicism that I hope I never allow into my heart. Because again, as far as I'm concerned, like gameplay experience, they made 50 discs. There's 50 discs. And no one knows about it. It like super failed. That's fascinating. Let's talk about that. Actually, let's talk about that.
Back in 2000, I was 22. And most of us more between 20 and 25. So everybody worked tirelessly and everybody worked fast. So I mean, they modeled the models faster than I could paint them. So it wasn't, I was fast, but they were really fast as well.
I don't believe that we earn so much from this project. No, it's impossible.
Impossible? More like imp-possible, am I right? Why do you have your gun out? The 50 imps were split into 10 categories of 5 each. Goblin, Fire, Ice, Undead, Beast, Aqua, Tree, Tech, Dino, and Three-Eyed. Often written out as just one word with 3 E's in a row. Just go with it. And like 𝐄𝐻ᴗ mentioned, each category or team usually follows the same formula. The big tank, sort of a wormy one, the one with boobs, and so on. This was done at least partly so that armatures and animations could be reused and slightly tuned for each archetype in each team. But who cares, really? As you've probably picked up on by now, the names are where it's at.
The way that we named things back in the day was always inspiring, and as I recall it, also the source of much laughter and joy. Like it was always a pleasure giving names to things that you created and trying to be a bit clever and cool at the same time, which is not, as you've seen, necessarily the easiest stunt to pull off.
And with 50 characters and some 25 years since they were first created, I can't help but wonder how well the team members of 𝐿 actually remember the names today, so I decided to find out in Name That Imp! This is of course the game show where you win by correctly naming imps. Give a warm applause for our contenders.
On set for the TV show.
Well, it's not TV exactly. It's a YouTube video.
I thought it was TV4. Was it TV3?
No, it's neither. It's not TV. Whatever. 𝐄𝐻ᴗ, how are you feeling?
So exciting. I don't remember anything of this.
Okay, that's probably bad.
Total humiliation coming right up.
Of you or of the... Never mind. Here's your first imp of the day. Who is this?
I have no idea, but it does look like a gremlin, so I assume that we kind of called it Gretchfawn or something like that.
Gretchfawn, okay. 𝐄𝐻ᴗ?
I have no idea. Gremlin or...
Marcus?
What could it be? Like demoniac?
Unfortunately, the name we were looking for was Amoebius.
It's not very Amoebius-like, though.
That's fair, but also, you named them, not me. Next up, what is this guy's name?
This is the snowman. What was he called? Frosty.
Frosty.
It's probably called like Frost or something.
Unfortunately, that's another dud. The name we were looking for was Arctis.
Arctis. That's really good. I like it. And I like it with the K as well. That feels very us.
Arctis. Okay. Cool. Okay.
Okay, just as a reminder, you guys named these, okay? So, next up, who's this freak?
I don't...
Clayhorn.
Horn demon. No.
Unfortunately, none of those are correct either. This is, of course...
Of course.
Next on the board...
And that's obviously one of the female characters, which we have one for each team.
You're absolutely correct. What's her name?
Madame.
Okay, Madame, not bad. Marcus?
Fire-Nya.
Ooh, that's not bad either, but the correct answer is Feed Nymph.
Feed Nymph. Oh, How could I not go Fear Nymph? That's, you know.
I'm gonna go ahead and count that as a point for Marcus for being close enough. So, looking at the scoreboard, we're now at 0-0-1. Gonna need you guys to step it up a little bit, okay? Maybe with this next one. Who is...
King Konga.
Wasn't he called like King Konga or something like that?
King Kongas.
That's what I like to see. The name is, in fact, King Konga.
That's close enough.
Unfortunately, not quite, Marcus. I'm gonna go ahead and give out points to both you once, but that extra S at the end there, I can't give you a point for that one.
Oh.
Yeah, sorry, buddy, but that does mean that the scoreboard is now tied. Very exciting stuff. Now, who's this?
Entor.
Then it's definitely not Enthor, but it could have been something like Enthor, so then I'll go a Logototh.
Sorry, the name is Slink.
My old friend Slink.
Okay.
I really like Slink.
We all do, Johan. We all do. But now we're down to the final imp of the day, and the scoreboard is still tied, so whoever can guess correctly on this one will be...
Mexoid.
Metalzoid.
Metalor.
Mega Man.
Guys, I haven't even shown the picture.
Gulorg.
Jesus Christ, here.
That was my favorite. That's one of the ones I really recall.
Great. So what's his name?
Yeah, so Ramor.
Okay, Ramork. Marcus?
I can make a qualified guess, and I think it is Jeffiot.
Sjöberg?
Yes, it's called Battogorg.
Well, that's pretty close, but the correct answer is, of course...
Buttgod. Buttgod.
Oh my god.
It's a perfectly normal name for a video game character. Yeah.
Now, as has been established a few times by now, Imp is more fun conceptually than it is as an actual game. That being said, though, I do think that the more technically inclined portion of the audience might be wondering how it actually works under the hood, how it accomplishes the character switching and all that, so let's take a look at that too. When the user first puts their disk in, it loads a file called Imp Launcher. This opens the screen that you've seen before where you pick what mode you want to play in, and once that you do, this in turn launches the imp.exe file, which is the actual game. What imp.exe does is that it looks inside of this data folder, in which we can see the expected HUD elements, language settings, that don't work by the way, sound effects, 3D models and animation data in proprietary file formats, but the most interesting folder is this one, PLY, for player, inside of which we can see the character portrait, the character-specific sound effects, and this data.dat file. Data.dat. What the fuck is English? Data.dat contains variables like the character's name and its ID number, its weight, move speed, and damage range. I did play around with tweaking these, but the only mildly interesting thing that I managed to achieve was to make one character super fast and then run off into the void and die. Now, as some of you have probably already deduced, the only thing that's actually different between two disks are the files inside of the PLY folder. Everything else is exactly the same. So all the game does to achieve its character switching is that it first launches the game with whatever character that's on the disk you currently have in, and then once it gets to this menu and you hit the spacebar, it just looks inside of the PLY folder to see what character is now inserted. This of course means that theoretically, not that I'm saying that anyone should do this, but it'd theoretically be quite easy to just kind of copy the PLY folder off of each of the discs and then organize them by name and write a little Python script that just copies the contents of the PLY folder of your choice into the PLY folder that the game is actually looking at, circumventing the need to swap discs. This could even be hosted on like a lightweight local web server with a guided user interface which could be accessed from your phone, allowing you to switch between all 50 characters dynamically without having to bother switching discs or tabbing out of the game. You know, theoretically. And with that, we've pretty much touched on all there is to this game. We've talked about the people behind it, the production, the gameplay, the art, the discs, the names. Yeah, I mean, the only thing that's really left at this point would be the tournament mode, which, you know, would require to have several people to play it with, but that's...
One of the things that we really wanted Imp to be was that we wanted it to be kind of a party game, if you will, that you could sit down and play with friends, and some kind of basic deck building, if you will, to use a Pokémon or Magic the Gathering analogy, in terms of how you put together the lineup that you wanted, and also then naturally having that opportunity to gloat a bit over your friends once you defeated them. I do believe that we played quite a bit at the office, but that does not really qualify because that's playtesting. So I think that your tournament is probably the first. You probably had the inaugural unofficial Imp championships of the known universe in that barn.
Jag vill tacka självklart Jesus, Rafael, mina favoriter. Och min personliga hjälte, Jordan B. Peterson.
Som jag känner honom varje gång. Kul att det blev till. Okay. So, now that the 2025 inaugural unofficial Imp Championships of the known universe in a barn has concluded, I'm happy to be able to exclusively report that Imp kinda works. Don't get me wrong, from a gameplay perspective, it's, as previously established, pretty bland, but I also think that in some sort of backwards way, the jank and the unbalanced characters sort of plays in its favor. As you could probably see in the footage of the tournament, there was everything from seasoned gamer girls to a literal child playing, and everyone did pretty well for themselves. Going into any of the matches, you couldn't guess who would come out on top. And overall, I'd say that my expectations were that I was about to essentially just force a bunch of my friends to play this game for a video. But as you could probably see, we ended up having like a good time, you know, with the game. Of course, it didn't hurt that it was a beautiful summer's day and that I love all the people who were involved, but, you know, the game was cool too. One somewhat interesting observation that I want to share here is that when you play the game in the league mode, which I think I might have called tournament mode on and off throughout this video, the game does deepen a little bit. Not by much, but a little bit. Naturally, the process of building a team lends the experience some additional complexity, but there are also some additional mechanics that come into play. For example, you can switch your fighter in between rounds to better counter your opponent's pick, and if your imp loses a round, it loses 1 life, and as long as you still have lives left, you can still play with that imp again if you want to. But if you win a round, your imp's health doesn't reset, so whenever you next play with that imp, it will retain whatever damage it sustained in the last fight. However, that is then sort of counterbalanced by a win streak power-up that they call a streak buff. You get to be either hot or sizzling, depending on how many matches in a row that imp has won. And this improves your attack strength. But yeah, that being said, I'm not gonna pretend that this somehow, you know, changes everything, because it doesn't. There is really nothing more to the imp experience than what you've seen in this video. But of course I can't help but make the comparison to ᴄʰ/'s roots with cell entertainment and board games, role-playing games and stuff like that, because with party games, especially the ones from before online play became the standard experience, the number one selling point is that you have an excuse to get together with people and do something that you enjoy doing together. And at least for us in that regard, I'd say that Imp worked pretty damn well. There was one detail that came out in the interviews I did with the ᴄʰ/'s people, and by the way, I do really want to thank everyone from ᴄʰ/'s that I talked to for being so generous with their time and, you know, talking to me about this little thing that they worked on a quarter of a century ago. I also want to take this opportunity to acknowledge that the 3 people I talked to weren't all of ᴄʰ/'s. There were a bunch of people working there. Here are the Imp credits where you can see a bunch of other names. I did also email a little bit with Eklund, one of the programmers. We just couldn't find a time slot to talk, but also super nice. But anyway, the thing that did come out in the interviews that I haven't been able to get out of my mind, but haven't also found a good place to put in the script, is that they mentioned how Imp was an experiment in bringing a game to the market themselves, without a publisher taking the lion's share of the profits and essentially just DIYing the whole thing. And obviously, if Imp sold well, that would be a huge windfall, and that would have had major ramifications for the long-term financial health of the studio. But in practice, what it meant was that ᴄʰ/'s had to perform a very heavy lift alone, persuading the gaming public of Sweden to try this new and unusual collectible disc party game concept without any real marketing or distribution specialists advising them on how to do it. But they were able to instead leverage their existing relationships with gaming stores and then even secure a promotional spot on a now forgotten morning TV show called Hits for Kids that I've mentioned at least like 2-3 times in the video, and it sucks that I don't have any footage of it, but that's just how things go. And unfortunately, ultimately the game didn't catch on. And like, when I started working on this video, I had a hard time even finding it mentioned pretty much anywhere online. Imp was a really big swing. It may be a bad game by 2025 standards, and maybe even by early 2000s indie studio standards, but at least it tried something, you know? There was a vision there, and a bunch of CDs. So many CDs. And during my talk with Johan Sjöberg, I found it interesting that he mentioned how he thought of modern game design tools as essentially a way to enable modern indie devs to take similar big swings.
I think that the freedom that you have with all the tools that are available to you today allows for a lot more rapid experimentation and trying things out. So now we've ended up back in where the industry was when it started out, when literally just 1 or 2 or 3 people could make quite an impactful product with the tools available, and I'd say also the tools that are coming. I think that we'll be seeing a lot more interesting things coming out of very small studios, and I think that development is also very healthy from a creative and creativity standpoint.
And I hope he's right. Hold on, don't click away. The video isn't over. There's one more thing. And it isn't just like, here's my Patreon or whatever. I mean, here is my Patreon, but that's not the thing. So I've been emailing back and forth with the 𝐿 boys, and don't ask me how, but somehow I got them to agree to let me essentially do a shareware version of Imp. You know that hypothetical Python script that I talked about before that essentially includes all 50 characters into the game and lets you kind of switch between them? That's what I'm releasing. But there's a couple of caveats here. First of all, this is a really old game. It worked well for me on Windows 10. I've now switched to Windows 11. That seems to work too. Mac users probably can't play it, and Linux users, I don't know, you could put in the comment section that you're a Linux user. That won't help or anything, but you seem to like to do that. And then on top of this old game is very janky Python code by me, which has then been lovingly touched up by Nick Glenn over at Playable Workshop. So huge thanks to him. Point being, if this video made you want to play Imp, now you can, at least for a while. It'll probably be on my itch.io page, but as of recording this, I'm not completely sure. There'll be a link on my website. I think that's the easiest way to then find your way to the download. There's gonna be 2 separate downloads. One of them is just, you know, on your PC, and then you have to tab out to change character and tab back in. The other one gives you a little QR code that you scan with your phone, and then you can switch character from there. I've tested it on a few Windows PCs now, and it seems to work, so hopefully it'll work for you too, but you might have to, I don't know, fiddle around with it. You'll work it out. Now, what I really want to see from you is that I want other people to do Imp tournaments. I'm thinking as long as there's at least 3 people playing, it counts as a tournament. And I think it'd be so fun to see that, because for some reason this game has ended up like meaning a lot to me. So if you end up playing this with some friends, do it in the tournament mode and tag me on, you know, Twitter. I'm never there, but I check it sometimes. Blue Sky, I'm on there a little bit more. Instagram, I'm on there. I haven't really told anyone about that, but some of you found me anyway. And yeah, tag me in any tournaments that you do. I really want to see. But no, I think that's everything for this video. I want to thank Zach for being my co-writer on this project. Thanks to videojames for lending your amazing voice for a couple of segments. Of course, thank you to the 𝐿 staff, both the ones I had an opportunity to speak to and the ones that I didn't. Shout out, as always, to my Patreon producers and the rest of my patrons. These documentary-style videos take a lot of work and time, and I'm just one guy doing everything on my own. So if you want to support me, you know, hit up the you already know all this, but there's a Patreon link somewhere on screen. But that should be everything. Thank you so much for watching. See you next time.